up? It's Cinema Shogun here, and over the next coming days, we are going to be learning a lot about OceanGate and about what went wrong with this Titan sub that imploded while taking a journey down to the Titanic. Now, up until this point, we knew that OceanGate had received a ton of warnings about the sub being unsafe, but we were under the impression that at the very least, the OceanGate CEO, Stockton Rush, we were under the impression that he was confident in this vehicle. That at the very least, he believed this sub was safe, even though now we know it wasn't, even though everyone in the industry was trying to warn him. It seemed as if at least he, in his mind, believed this sub was safe. But now there's new information coming out. New information that somewhat suggests that Stockton Rush maybe wasn't as confident in this sub as what we were led to believe. In fact, it appears to me that Stockton Rush knew that something was going wrong with the very vehicle that he took down to the Titanic. In my last video, someone close to Stockton Rush spoke out about his experience on the Titan sub. He spoke out about the creaking sounds that sounded as if the sub was going to eventually fail. He even mentioned that Stockton Rush knew this and even warned them, hey, there's going to be a lot of creaking. There's going to be a lot of sounds. And you know, someone in that industry, hearing those sounds as they dive to the bottom of the ocean, Stockton Rush knew. He knew that something was not right. And while he maybe pretended to be so confident that this sub was safety, or that this sub was safe, he knew that it wasn't. Now, the guy that we heard speak earlier in my last video, if you haven't already, go check it out. He actually just did an interview and revealed a lot more information. You know, I'm not an expert when it comes to this stuff. It's hard for me to try to explain what went wrong with this sub, although I've been doing the best that I can. But I think it's important that we hear from some of these people as well. And I want you to hear from this guy because I think that he's revealed some of the most useful information in this story as of yet, and some of the most damning information about OceanGate and about Stockton Rush, and about the knowledge that he had that something was not right with that sub. I want you all to watch this clip. Before you do, hit that thumbs up button. We are on the road to 100K. I hope you all enjoy these videos as much as I enjoy making them. Luckily, they're free to watch, and it's also free to support this channel by dropping a thumbs up and dropping a comment down below. That's all you got to do, and it helps this channel so much. So without further ado, let's watch this clip, which is kind of long, and then I'll be right back with more thoughts.
We mentioned Carl Stanley and his 2019 email warning to Stockton Rush at the top of the program. I spoke to Mr. Stanley just before air. Carl, if you can, describe for us what it was like when you were on Titan and the noises that you heard when you went down on it.
Yeah, so Stockton warned us ahead of time to prepare us. He told us that when he was down there, that the submarine had made many loud noises and that this was to be expected, and it was not anywhere close to catastrophic. He had also tested models at this point, and he knew exactly where the models failed. And so I didn't feel that our life was really in grave danger at that point. I feel the real failure came with cracking over time, and also with the joint and water getting in there. And another thing that happened was electrolysis, because even though carbon fiber is not a metal, in some ways it behaves like a metal, that it's conductive. So the salt water in between there and the titanium flange over time would have corroded things and caused even more delamination with the carbon fiber. Unfortunately, I doubt that there's enough.
You don't think it's a coincidence? You don't think it's a coincidence that this implosion happened on the first dive of the season because of the issue that you just raised? You think it's possible salt water could have gotten in even from a previous season or previous dive,
it had been
and just been sitting
away
there the year before?
Yeah.
So you heard these noises when you went down with him. You waited a day. You wrote out an email to Stockton Rush, and I want to read some of what you wrote in this email once you were back on land.
Okay.
You said, "What we heard, in my opinion, sounded like a flaw, a defect in one area being acted on by the tremendous pressures and being crushed, damaged. From the intensity of the sounds, the fact that they never totally stopped at depth, and the fact that there were sounds at about 300 feet that indicated a relaxing of stored energy would indicate that there is an area of the hull that is breaking down, getting spongy." Can you explain just what you mean by getting spongy, and also what Stockton Rush's response was to that email?
Well, so I mean, we were actually staying in the same house in Marsh Harbor in the Bahamas during this whole trip, and I took a lot of time to kind of digest the whole experience and send him an email specifically because I didn't want there to be any kind of like heated exchange between us. I mean, he's not the kind of character that would take criticism very well, or I wanted to have him have something that he could refer back to, and that he couldn't just start an argument, that he would have to read it. And he didn't respond in writing. We spoke about it, but we didn't speak about it at length. But he did take measures. He extended he canceled that year's dives and took that carbon fiber tube and cut it up, found the defects, and made a new one at the cost, I believe, of well over $1 million. He was making these tubes out of the exact same material that Boeing is making airplanes out of. I think he actually got the material from Boeing or the same supplier. I mean, he had an over 20-year background in aviation. He was a pilot at 19. He made his own composite airplane.
Right.
And I feel that's also a mitigating circumstance in this all, is that his background in aviation caused him to he was thinking about it from an aviation standpoint, not he switched horses in midstream.
You also wrote to him, the other thing you wrote to him in that email, you said, "Imagine the project is self-funded and on your own schedule. Would you consider taking dozens of other people to the Titanic before you truly knew the source of those sounds?" You knew that he was certainly at that time, under pressure from investors, from people, high net worth individuals who wanted to go out and see the Titanic.
He was under a lot of pressure. I met a lot of the people that were waiting to go, and he kind of brought them out there so that, I mean, they'd already given large deposits, and he wanted them to be able to see. I mean, it was also for them, I think, part of the experience, and seeing, they're not just tourists, they're mission specialists. So they're involved in the whole process, and they were chomping at the bit. They're just like, when is this going to be ready? When is this going to be ready? And if memory serves me correctly, there was even one person who was terminally ill. And I mean, if he kept delaying it, this person might have died before they even got their chance to go.
Mr. Rush told you later on, he told you that there had been a manufacturing defect with the Titan's hull, the Titan that you had been on, and that he made adjustments and made a new hull. Did you ever find out? Did you have confidence? I mean, did you believe it was appropriate to be taking passengers down in this vessel?
I felt that I saw one interview with James Cameron, and he said that, I assumed that somebody here was smarter than me. I assumed that Stockton, with his engineering degree, with his large amount of funding from my perspective, And he never got into the nitty gritty with me about exactly how many model tests he had done, exactly where they failed, but
Right.
my impression was that he had done enough diligence that, lives were not at risk. And if you tested a couple models and they went 30, 40, 50% deeper, and you saw over and over exactly how they failed, you already know enough to not die. I don't know exactly how. I don't know the numbers. I never went over all the data. And I hope OceanGate, I hope this doesn't turn into a huge litigation mess. I hope it turns into a learning experience.
Carl Stanley, I really appreciate you being with us tonight. Thank you.
Couldn't be me. Could not be me. As soon as I hear some creaking sounds, you're taking my ass back up to the surface. I don't care if we have to fight on our knees inside of this damn cramped sub. You're taking me back to the top. But as you hear there, Stockton Rush wasn't the easiest person to necessarily talk to or to provide constructive criticism to. This guy seems as if he was almost intimidated to tell Stockton Rush or to talk to Stockton Rush about his concerns. But it is believed that over the off season, salt water that may have gotten within the crevices of this vehicle started breaking down some of the material in this vehicle over time, corroding it. And we now know that this sub, listen, I'm not there 24/7, but people have taken pictures of this sub chilling in a parking lot. I don't know how long it was there. People online claim that they used to pass by it all the time, which means that they stored this sub in the off season out in a parking lot for it to be rained on, crapped on by birds, just sitting out there. And I don't think that's safe either, right? I mean, if I have this sub that's supposed to be safe to take me to the bottom of the ocean, I think I would want to store it somewhere that's safer than a random backlot parking lot. Yet some people have claimed that they've seen this sub chilling in a parking lot, being stored there, and they've provided pictures as well. But, we're learning more and more every day about what went wrong here. And this right here, his explanation seems to be some of the most useful information that we've gotten so far. A lot of people are speculating about what could have went wrong. Here we get a detailed explanation that I feel was broken down in a simple way that everyone can understand. I mean, we don't understand the complexities of it all, and a lot of us don't necessarily understand how these materials work. But I felt like he did a good job of explaining. And, this just goes to show that, warnings aside, Stockton Rush knew that there was problems with the design of this sub. He knew that there were problems with the materials that he used. And instead of making the proper adjustments, instead of scrapping the whole project and starting anew, he decided to keep on going. And I think it's crazy that he would explain to people before they get on the sub, don't worry, there's going to be a lot of creaking and cracking sounds, knowing that means that your sub is failing. Sure, maybe it's not going to implode as soon as you go down into the ocean, but over time, the wear and tear wore down on this vehicle and wore down on the materials that should not have been that deep in the ocean in the first place, and we all know the outcome of that. But like I said, I think this is some very damning information because it goes beyond Stockton Rush just being this super confident inventor that wanted to be loyal to his creation. And it turns out that Stockton, in many ways, I don't know if this dude was just delusional or if he was desperate. I feel like there's a little bit of both. There's a delusion that nothing's going to happen to you and that you've created this state-of-the-art sub, and then there's this other problem that he's dealing with as well. I feel as if he was desperate to prove to the industry that he could defy all of the odds, and I feel like he was desperate to sell tickets on that sub, and we know that now because we've seen leaked text messages where he's trying to convince people that it's safe, offering them discounts and you name it. But let me know your thoughts about all of this down in the comments below. While you're down there, hit the thumbs up, hit that subscribe, ring that notification bell, and I will talk to you all in the next video.